Live. So, welcome, welcome, welcome to Michelle Speaks. If you hide it, you can't heal it. With me, your host, Michelle Portier. We are starting 2021 off strong with our first fireside chat of this year with a very special guest and friend of mine, Mr. Vincent A. Lanci. And as you know, we highlight those that have encountered adversity, harness them, and turn them into victories, and now help others to do the same. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. I want to thank our special guest, Mr. Vincent A. Lanci. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on and share with us your journey about how you overcame your adversities, turned them into victories, and you're now helping others to do the same. So welcome, 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 Mr. Lanci. How are you today?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Michelle. Thank you for the kind words as well. I'm looking forward to sharing my experiences with your audience, your viewers, and adding some value to their lives.
Thank you so much. And so we're just going to jump right into it. So for my listening audience and those that don't know you, as I had the opportunity to know you, who is Vincent A. Lanci?
I am a 29-year-old entrepreneur living in Tampa, Florida, but I will backtrack a little bit. When I was 21 years old, I was the victim of a hit and run accident while walking one evening.
Sorry about that.
Victim of a hit and run accident while I was on foot one evening. There was speculation if I would make it through the initial night. Then, as I did survive, the doubt switched over to that I may never walk on my own, talk on my own, really live a normal life again. So I adopted this tell me I can't and I will attitude, this philosophy where I just began to realize that expectations were just that. They're what people expect. If you dedicate yourself to something, you can expect to shatter those expectations. I learned and went back to school, finished my finance degree, wanted more out of life, didn't know what more was. So I went on for my MBA, spoke at commencement, and realized after speaking that my story was bigger than me.
Right.
And just kept going. And fast forward to now, sitting here with you, your audience. Just came out with my third book, Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health. And I'm looking forward to 2021.
Congratulations on, coming out with your books, and thank you so much for agreeing to come on and just be transparent and open, and helping others that may have encountered something similar or, may be encountering some kind of adversity, but I'm sure they can pull something from what you have to share. And already I've pulled something from it. Just that statement, tell me I can't and I will, just really resonated with me. So that was a powerful statement. And so that's who you are personally. Who are you spiritually? You shared a little bit about your story, how you were left for dead. I'd like you to go a little bit bigger into more in depth into that. But before you do that, tell us who you are spiritually.
Yeah, when you go through something as transformative as what happened to me, you realize that you had some kind of help along the way.
Right.
Someone was looking out for you, a bigger force was out there, and grew up Roman Catholic, and I do believe in God. And at that point, I became very religious in the beginning of my hospital journey. I mean, all bets were off. Didn't think I would make it through the first night. And then as you progress with a traumatic brain injury, it can get quite dark. And
Right.
you're starting at level 0 again, a 5-year-old. I'd shared this story when I was out of a coma and I was in my hospital room. The nurses had asked, and the doctors, what school do you go to? And I had said Pulaski Elementary School. So I was a 21-year-old college senior studying finance at UT, but my brain thought I was a 5-year-old boy in elementary school still.
Right. Wow. That must have been pretty impactful. So what I'd like you to do is just kind of take us on the journey. Like, tell me a little bit about what your life was prior to your injury, what you remember of the injury, and then your journey, from that time and how that's impacted, how that has been, how you have been impacted by that.
Yeah, growing up, played sports. I was a baseball player ever since T-ball, played through junior year, wrestled as well, cross country, and was always active, had a good group of friends and good family support. Have a little sister and a grandmother who's a big role in my life.
Right.
And when I went down to Florida, everything was going great. I was a very lively person, loved going out a lot. And, I was 21 years old, so priorities weren't exactly the clearest, but they always were, in the sense that I did internships after sophomore year. I did Northwestern Mutual. After my junior year, I did Merrill Lynch. So I always had my eye on the finish line, but it's just funny. You go to school for finance, and then I end up becoming an author and speaker and things like that. But it just taught me, this whole experience, that you really have to do what makes you happy, because I learned that life really is that short. And I had a finance position back on Long Island. I took really a year where I spent time with my family around 27, 28. My grandmother, her dementia was increasing, I guess you could say. So I wanted to really spend more time there. I had the flexibility to schedule, and I said, let's do it. So when I got there, I pursued a finance job, and I was making more money than I ever had in my life. And I thought that's what would make me happy. My whole life, I wanted this corner office, as I say, with the title and the job and the salary. And then I got it, and it just wasn't really what I expected. I was sitting in traffic multiple hours a day. I was really not in a good environment. That corporate culture is like that fake world, kind of, where it's different dynamics in there than outside that wall. People can act a little differently. So it really just led me up to this. And once you go all in with something, you're all in. I was doing online teaching 3, 4 a.m. till 10 a.m. because 12 hours ahead in Beijing to write this first book. I had to have a flexible schedule. I'm up in New York. The finance job wasn't what I wanted. I couldn't make an excuse. I still had to work. After that would be done, I would do some labor assistant work or some kind of carpentry helper or something. And then I would go to a restaurant. So I really had to grind it out to make a third of the money, but 3 times as many jobs. But the eye was on the prize. The eye was on, I'm going to use my story to make a difference, and I have to start somewhere. And that first step was Left for Dead, my first book.
Right. And so when you say Left for Dead, as much as you can recall about the injury, can you tell us what happened that night? And then how you have kind of navigated the obstacles that you encounter on a daily basis because of the TBI. How have you had to change how you live life?
Well, that part of your brain blocks these sort of memories, so I don't have any really I don't really remember it that much. But I do know that I was on the side of the road, almost on the sidewalk, after crossing a road, and the driver was outside the lane. And it's something, it was tough to get out of denial in the beginning in the hospital, just like, what do you mean I didn't do anything wrong and this is what's happened to me? My life was altered because of someone I never met. Just didn't, when your brain's a 5-year-old, it doesn't make all sense.
Right.
I mean, directly after that, when I went back for school, I was a student who could look at a piece of paper before an exam 20, 30 minutes out and just get a B, something good enough, and move on if I needed that. And I became a student who had to rewire my whole brain, and going from just glancing at a paper to read, write, type, read, write, type, read, write, type over and over and over again to gain a tenth of that retain a tenth of the information that I had.
Right.
So you either make an excuse, you sit and sulk, cry, why me, cry, why me, or you don't let the traumatic brain injury run you, you run it. You work a little harder, you change a few things, and haven't looked back.
And so how long has it been since you've had the injury to where you are now?
We're coming up on 8 years next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
8, that number of new beginnings.
Crazy. I mean,
we're right at the top of the year, so another new beginning. And so
I always just take the day just to do something. I make sure I do something I enjoy. Hopefully see a friend or something. And now we're in this COVID time, so it's a little bit different. But I am going to be launching my TikTok on that 8-year. It took me forever. I tried 3 or 4 times making these things, and it's crazy. I'm 29 years old. I'm already behind in so many of the apps, but I have a friend who's doing very well. I'll give him a little shout. Mike Gorman up in New York, like 200,000 followers, and he's on a few of my podcasts. Known the family for years growing up. I reached out to him. I said, hey, man, like if I could have a little of your time, 10, 15 minutes. I really want to learn the basic, just something. So starting out real basic, not going crazy, but we're going to get that going. It was January 19th when I went out that night, but January 20th because of the hour. So I'll launch it one of those days, haven't decided, but I got the first 7 days posts already recorded, ready to go.
Awesome. So you're replacing that bad memory with a good memory now, January 19th.
Well, it's just I'm here, so I got to do something with it. And now that I've started doing this is probably 7 years, I guess, of doing my own thing. I had nothing as serious as it is now in the beginning because it wasn't possible, but it was getting gigs. I actually probably made more money speaking that first 3 or 4 months than the next 2 years because my network, you have your network and everybody's, I'm getting gigs. I'm getting like $2,000 for a gig an hour. And I'm just like, damn, this is going to be how it is. And then like, eventually like, life gets in the way and you have to learn how to network and you have to build your brand. And now it's just, okay, something bad happened to you, but something that bad happened to a lot of people. Now it makes it different now. So it's like, all right, the MBA, then that wasn't enough. Then we had the first book. That still wasn't enough. So now here we are 3 books later and 2 podcasts. And I'm humbled by all the conversations and connections I've made with people all over the world. You've been great enough to join me on my podcast series. And it's just great to really talk to people on a deeper level than even a therapist sometimes because we get into such a great dialogue and we're like-minded, have a similar mission if we're on whichever show, a mental health break, or what it's really like to be an entrepreneur. It's a joy for me to host because just like my story in life, the stories of my guests on the podcast help propel people in their businesses, help propel them in their personal lives, and especially the mental health podcast. I know for me, firsthand stories resonate very well, more so than a doctor telling me this may happen because that was great. You have a TBI, this could happen. But once I started interacting with other traumatic brain injury survivors, that's when the ball started rolling and I'm just taking off. Expectations shattered again and again because confidence goes up when you know what the hell's going on.
Right.
It's just
and so, I can definitely relate when you were talking about TikTok and being the age you are and still being behind in technology. With me being almost 50, I'm way behind. So, I let the experts do, and I will do the best that I can and let them do the rest. As the P90X guru. And so, what are some of the obstacles that you encounter, like, with the TBI and with the mental health challenge? First, what was your inspiration to start a mental health break? What was your
that really came out of I did Left 4 Dead. That came out. It's crazy. It's only like a little over a year and a half. So we'll touch on that a little bit, how the difference a year can make. But that part, I was like, okay, I need to make these podcasts. 2 things I do. What am I passionate about? Working for myself while making a difference and mental health. So let's start doing it. And then my book came out, Left 4 Dead, A Story of Redemption. And first thing I did, I Googled top mental health influencers in the country.
Right.
Took a cold chance. I would DM them on every single social, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever. Their website, write to them, hey, this, you have a little character limit. Hey, this is TBI survivor, hit and run survivor. I'm looking to make a difference on a large scale. I could use your help. That's my vulnerability, honesty, and granted, you play the numbers game like everything. Out of the 25 doctors I reached out to, maybe like 6 or 7 reached back. Out of that, like 3 or 4 I collaborated with. And like I said, a difference a year makes. Dr. Denise McDermott, she was my first guest on a mental health break. Fast forward to my new book, Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health. She introduced me to that illustrator, Chris Bridge.
Wow.
So if you want to be an entrepreneur, as you can attest to, you got to network. You got to be willing to take chances that really don't change your life if they don't go your way at all. Nothing changes because look at me. I don't even know how we linked up. Did I reach out to you? Were we connected?
Actually, you did. You reached out to me on LinkedIn.
There you go.
We had a conversation. We had a Zoom call, and then I became a guest on, your podcast. I believe A Mental Health Break, the podcast. And then we've just kind of grown from there. We just had another recent conversation on the entrepreneurial tip. And so, it's just a testament to those that are listening in, that it doesn't matter what your adversity is, what your challenge is, whether it's a mental health issue, whether it's a TBI, which I have both of. I have a TBI from some accidents that I encountered a couple of years ago, had some mental health challenges because of things that I encountered during my military service. But yet and still, it does not deter or stop what is within, because ultimately it's what's within that's going to get us through the hard times. In addition to being vulnerable and transparent, as you mentioned earlier, in addition to having the right circle of support. And so I'm just so grateful and honored that you, graced this platform, our fireside chat, and you are our first guest of 2021. Because I think
that's great. Well, I'm honored to be here. Like I said, for what you stand for, you're trying to make a difference on several levels, as am I. And mental health stigmas are not going to be breaking down anytime soon if there aren't more conversations like ours where people can resonate and say, all right, they're talking about it. Maybe I can at least think about looking into what's going on. And then it's
and breaking the stigma,
And if people are battling something, whether it's severe or it's mild or it's just once in a while, people are going to be open to speaking about it with other people who are going through the same thing, because no one wants to feel lonely in any facet of life. So reach out to someone, whether it's a doctor, your insurance company, me, Michelle. That's how you get in touch with me right there. I answer all my DMs as fast as I can. And yeah.
Yes. And I'm glad you mentioned that. So if for those that are tuning in and you want to reach out to Mr. Vincent, you see his contact information just below his website, vincentalanci.com. Make sure that you reach out to him. This is someone that you really, really want to be connected to, because you're going to continue to see great things this year. And I look forward to us doing great things together this year on the entrepreneurial tip. So what's been the secret, do you think, to your success and stability?
Secret? I wouldn't even call it much of a secret. It's really just persistence and consistency, because there was a point where I was a finance major. I explained how that's what I thought I wanted at one point, and I always had one foot in and out the door of both sides, the finance degree and the speaking. I was doing both. And then I got into real estate because I said, oh, damn, if I can make a couple grand and put it towards my speaking, let's do it. And granted, that was all great, but what it really did was take away those 7 hours a day that I could be putting into this. But you need money, you need to survive. Everything plays its time and place. And every day for that first book, when I was teaching those kids overseas, that was an 11-month gig, and I was teaching pretty much 6-7 days a week at crack of dawn, which means I'm not going out, which means I'm in bed at a real grandpa an hour, and eyeing the prize. No one wants to wake up that early and teach for very little wage, but I said, okay. And it was, I think, 8 or 9 a class, unless you did 40 a month or so. Then you get to 10 a class. So it's like, all right, if I can nail 10 classes, I can make $100 before 10 a.m. I'm like, cool. And then I'll go do construction late. Not because of my injuries, I can't do much, but a helper, painting things. I know about 10, 15 trades. I'm not a master or anything, but I've challenged myself to get on those jobs and learn, and they pay all right. And then I would go do expo work, busboy work, something. I'd be 27 years old with a master's degree, humbling myself down to a busboy role or an expo role in the kitchen, because it played its part. And there's nothing wrong with that as a career if you're in a restaurant at all. My particular journey, my particular career is, okay, I can't have a full-time position if I want to make this dream come true. Granted, prematurely, I left those full-time roles because I was so confident in myself, thinking that this could happen at any time. But that's the mentality you need to have. You can't not believe in yourself and think it's going to work out. You can't want all of these things and not be willing to work for it. And that's a problem you see, of course, on social media, which is a whole other conversation of its own. But
we can talk about here.
You guys put your own win. You just got to stay focused by yourself. Find things that motivate you. Find things that make you happy. Things that really work for me. And big in my new book, Mr. Lanci talks mental health, and it's what I talk about in my chapter are mental health breaks each day, a mental health day for yourself each week, and getting the proper rest. You can't.
That is so important.
I
Rest is
have a lot of hours, but I get my rest. I'll be in bed. People laugh like 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. I'm in bed because if I want to be rocking and rolling by 4 or 5, I got to be up at 3.
right. So I know you shared something right before we came on that, your day consisted of today. You went to the gym and then, you did some other things. But what I really wanted you to share, what is the thing that you do, like to control, your social media and time on that so it doesn't control you, and how important that is to mental health. So what was it that you shared with me that you do?
Yeah, and it's interesting because as humans, we're a constant work in progress. We're constantly changing. I had written an ebook during the pandemic, and it discusses my day and things I do, and already how they're already a little changed. And what I was sharing with her was with social media now, because I run the 3 accounts. I have this one, and then I have the mental health break for the podcast and the entrepreneurship. I post, I go down my timeline, and I like everybody on my timeline until it doesn't go anymore. Maybe I'll go one more time, like it all, show my support. But then I hop off because you can get sucked down on a rabbit hole on social media, and the next thing you know, you wasted an hour of your day. And
Right.
I am particularly productive in the mornings. I start early and I end not really that early because if I want to get my goals done, I have to have them done before everybody else's day starts, the normal 9 to 5.
Right.
People may say, why do you wake up that early? You can do it. You can wake up later and do it, but I really can't because how much I always have on my plate. But also, I'm not going to miss an opportunity like yours where you say, Vin, I want to do a 5:30 show. And if I was doing my normal work and I didn't get going till 9, I wouldn't have been able to take this opportunity because I wouldn't have been doing my own work. And
Right.
today, as you said, I had a 10 a.m. podcast, and then I had this 5:30 with me being a guest. I'm lucky enough to be a guest on both shows, and I had one of my own, plus all my other meetings, calls, and endeavors. So it's been a long day, but if you really want something, and I really want to grow this brand to where I'm able to make a difference on an even larger scale than I'm already on my own platform, I'm growing that platform every day and making great connections like you, and it helps improve that because you're helping me make a difference by joining your platform.
Thank you so much. And what I really wanted to key in on is something that you said, you have to make sure that you get your things, your priorities, the things that on your to-do list done before you can actually contribute or be, an assistance or a help or an aid to anybody else. And how, so many times we can want to make things better in the world. We want to be a force for good, but we don't even have our own schedules. We haven't learned to be able to manage ourselves, let alone manage ourselves, dealing with some of the challenges that we deal with. And so, what insights can you share for those that, live with mental illness or live with a TBI that can kind of help them, if they want to make a positive, change, or they want to be an agent for change within their communities, how they can do that, like step by step, give them how-to steps.
Well, I think it's important with the TBI to start off is recognize that don't compare your TBI to another TBI because the brain is that one part of your body that is different from everybody's. One TBI is unique from another TBI. And also, people who have not had a TBI, obviously, they're not really going to understand on the deeper levels of what having a TBI entails, how certain days can be worse than others. And it's an invisible disease. That's what we call it because from the outside looking in, we're fine. When I got hit by the car, my whole face was purple. I looked real scary, real bad. So then when I came back down to Tampa, I didn't have all those scars. I still have a little bit all these years later, but people looked at me and they thought I was absolutely fine because I looked all right. But meanwhile, I couldn't stay awake more than 4 hours a day or 5 hours a day. And I came back down to Tampa the second I was cleared by those doctors. Like the next week, I was back on a plane. And just because I looked all right, I didn't get back my short-term memory. Not even back. It didn't improve to where it's at right now until about 6.5 years after my accident. So just to put that in perspective, you losing train of thought for 6.5 years, becoming second nature to write everything down after you say it, second nature to have your iPhone calendar, your desk calendar, I had 3-4 calendars at one point because I didn't want to forget something. And I had to work with this brain injury, rewire myself where, okay, I went to grad school. I made an adult's decision. I got no special treatment there. You still get your 3 C's. You're out of the program. I still had a lot of things to live up to because I still took on responsibilities because I didn't want to really admit that this was going to be a limitation on my life. Bad things happen to a lot of people. People have to combat that adversity in ways they find. For me, it's just I want so much more out of life on this second opportunity of life. And now, like I said, about 7 years in, I'm finally getting some traction, and it's crazy. And you think, why can't this happen right away as an entrepreneur? But it takes time. Good things take time. And I'm real excited for this year because it's already January 14th, and I've had the opportunity to be on 3 other podcasts, and I'm coming close to some of my goals already. And I'm looking forward to just working with people all year, collaborating, making a difference with people, and helping other people's goals and dreams come true.
So you starting out strong. So take us through the day, a good day with your TBI, and then a bad day with your TBI.
Well, a good day, I think, is certainly attributed to getting a good night's sleep the night before. And it sounds corny or basic, but doing the little things like eating right and having enough water, those little things add up to your brain feeling good. If your body's feeling good, it's going to trickle up this time. And on a bad day, I guess, would be when I don't get a good night's sleep. I have too much on my plate and I didn't plan my day out the day before. Something that really helps me be 10 times more productive, get it all done and not stress is that before bed, I'll start it at 4 a.m., even if it's not up yet. Plan out my whole day, what I'm going to do each hour of the day, half hour, when I'm taking my breaks, when I'm taking meals. And it doesn't make me feel like I'm jumping out of my skin. I feel good. And I really try to hold myself accountable with planning my day out at least roughly the night before. I mean, I wake up, I'm good, I'm going, and I do my meditation, my walk, and we're out, good to go.
So one of the tools that you use is meditation, and the other one is exercise to kind of keep you
way bigger. Meditation, I think, for a long time, I try to talk about this when it comes up. I had very unrealistic expectations for what meditation did. I thought there was this magic drug of some sort, and you're just like feeling good. But it's really just, I feel, training your brain to be able to not think about certain thoughts. And for me, I'm not a big 20-minute meditation guy. I'll do 5, 6, 7 minutes sometimes. Sometimes it will be more. But I just try to make it a part where I get it in, even if it's just a couple minutes, get it in. And I just know if I do this activity, it's going to help my mental health. If I take a few minutes to do it, I'll do it. And like the gym, if I don't work out or even take a walk or something, I'm thinking about so many different thoughts I shouldn't even be thinking about. I'm stressing, I'm not good, I'm not productive. So I just try to do things I know help me. I just try to be very strict on myself to take care of myself, and always make sure that you do something for yourself in the day. I'm not saying spend 5 hours watching TV shows that you enjoy, but maybe it's a meal you want that you haven't had in a while or something. Just make sure, give yourself that little boost because the day is going to get hard at some point, and you got to have a smile on it.
There you go. And so, something that I thought that you said was key, because I'm an exercise enthusiast as well. And I know that if I don't get an opportunity to exercise, no matter how minute it may be, then, I kind of tank in my mood, something about those endorphins. And so just to be able to get up and get moving, that does so much, not only for, the TBI, but for the mental health, because our mental health governs everything else in our lives. And if that's not okay, then we're not okay and nothing else will be okay. And so I'm just really glad that you brought that out. And then the other thing that you brought out was holding, because many times we talk about having an accountability partner or somebody that we can be accountable to, but first and foremost, you have to be accountable to yourself. And so to be accountable to yourself, you have to know yourself and be aware of yourself. That was one of the other things that you're saying that is really resonating through everything that you're sharing is that knowing yourself and being accountable to yourself. So how were you able to kind of um, redirect yourself to being able to know yourself again and then holding yourself accountable to that? What were some of the things that you did?
It probably comes a little trial and error, seeing how far you can push certain things, what parts of the day work best for you, what activities are best suited for you in the morning, which activities are best suited for you in the afternoon. And once you work with your strengths, and I really stress that with people listening on, work well with what works for you, and things that don't work so well, reach out for help, outsource, do things that are going to boost your confidence, not tear you down. And you're able to take accountability on things that you want to do. And when you get good at things, you do things the right way, get a little momentum, and not necessarily good at every task, but certain tasks just make you feel good. Just doing things that make you good put you in that good place, that high place, that, okay, I'm ready to attack the day place. But Michelle, I'm sure you can resonate. We live in a world full of excuses where no one will take accountability. And I talked about this in my latest lessons learned story post. People will ghost you for days and on end. People will just not prioritize it, not value your time. They'll say yes to something with no intention of actually doing it, just to be polite or just to make conversation, which is all fine. But for people that value their time and have a schedule and take their business seriously, when you say yes to something or just offer to help somebody and never follow through, you're wasting our time, because I'm counting on you. I'm waiting for your response. I'm waiting for you to follow through. Even if it's a small task, I challenge everybody listening, don't commit to something unless you're actually able to take it on. If you say no to something, if Michelle asks me to help her with something and I say, hey, I don't have the time right now, I'm sorry, I can't give you full effort, I'm sure she would respect me a lot more for saying no to a task or a favor or anything than if I say yes, drag it on for a week or two extra and just not answer, then come back in a month and say, oh, I'm so sorry, I was busy. Oh, well, I was busy too, but it's all right. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
I most definitely can relate to that because that is such a pet peeve of mine. Because I am quick, even though I know I've had my moments where I drop the ball as well, but I am.
We're human. It happens, but you take accountability and try to fix it. You don't leave me hanging you may miss an email. That happens to me too, but once you find that email, you resurrect it. I'm still waiting to hear back from certain people after I follow up it just is what it is. Right. But you don't get torn up on it. You just don't exhaust energy to that person or company or activity anymore, which is, it's sad, but a few people I was in doing, helping each other's businesses grow. I'm not into counting favors. I don't believe that's how any relationship should be, but we should be able to help each other out. You support each other, right? I can help someone 1,000 times, but if there's one time I can use some advice on something, I need you to be there to help me if I need you. And I'm big on that. I think we need to be there for our friends, support each other, help us share our wins. And I know a lot of people in my circle, we always feel the same way. You see something cool is going on, you let the world know that your friend's doing it. Tag them in something, and I always appreciate the support I get. That's why I always give it back out to those people.
Right. If I could just kind of paraphrase what you just said, what I got out of that is don't count favors when you're doing things for people. Do it out of the goodness of your heart and because you really want to see them succeed, not, tit for tat. Hey, I did this, for you. Remember that time I did this? Now I want you to do this. I really love that.
How it is sometimes, but honestly, I get joy out of seeing my friends do awesome stuff and succeed, because it makes you feel good to see your friends do good. It's not a competition. There's enough money in the world for everybody. Just opportunities may not be as visible at times, but you can create it. If you look at my personal journey, the 3 books I wrote, the 2 podcast series I launched, I didn't wait on anybody. There was nothing going on. I created the opportunity, and then now I have to just show value to potential guests, to make them want to come on my show. I have to show them that, hey, this is cool what I'm doing. We're inspiring some people along the way. We can share ideas and help each other grow. people like that. And through the stories that my guests so humbly share their vulnerability, like we talked about before, those stories help other people grow. And there's a lot of cool stuff that can happen with collaboration. It's no competition. There's a million authors in the world, right? But I love reading out and learning from other authors and growing with them. I don't get hurt if your book does more sales than mine. We're in different lanes, we're in different roads. And I'm excited to see what all of my connections do in 2021, because I can't be the only one who's hungry leaving 2020 in the past, sitting, waiting for business opportunities to come back, not leaving money on the table anymore. I know people are going to want to work and make a difference. And this is one of those, breaking mental health stigmas with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. The key is just finding those that are as hungry or as passionate about making the change, if not more so than you are, because that challenges you and charges you, because we all encounter roadblocks or obstacles where we may feel like, am I really making an impact? Do I really want to continue to do this? But having someone that can, continue to keep you charged or recharged or reignite the fire is a wonderful thing. And so, tell us a little bit more about your lessons learned. I know you mentioned something about posting your lessons learned. What is that?
This is actually probably the first time I'll share this on Instagram. I have, you got to try to get creative, right? Find ways to use these platforms that are in front of you. They have this thing called highlight reels, where I have one for my entrepreneurship podcast, mental health. I did one for lessons learned. I said, all right, I'm going to do 10. I'm going to go through over time, and as situations present themselves, either lessons I learned myself directly or as a third party witnessing it through my business endeavors, share 10 lessons with people to try to help them. But with those 10 lessons, when they're done, it's going to be a short book, and you have the limit on the post of characters. You can't write too much. I'm going to expand a bit on each of those lessons and actually give it as a free book to my subscribers on my website, a way for me to grow my brand, have people get to know me. 2020 was a tough year for everyone, so hopefully my stories can resonate with you a little bit. And my 2020 year, really a preview. I mentioned I was up in New York for a little bit. I came back down to Tampa. I always had a room in Tampa, but I wasn't really living as much as I would like to be, because family is the most important thing, and I wanted to be with my family, my grandma. I was back here full time January 2020, and COVID came March 2020. I just got back down here, had to get back on my feet, and I'm just like, okay, now I start my second part-time job, my side hustle, working with a great restaurant. Many of you heard Ocean Prime, working a lot of hours, as much as my body can handle. And things were going great. Then all of a sudden, restaurants were, of course, one of the first businesses shut down, but very grateful to be in a state like Florida, an open state where our Governor DeSantis said in the beginning that we're not shut down again. And that is no me saying how serious COVID is. I understand the severity of it. I wear my mask everywhere I go, and I know people don't, because in America you have the option to wear your mask if you want to wear your mask. If you don't, you don't. I personally do wear my mask. It's my decision, and thankfully I have not got COVID yet. And it's just a year that took us all by storm, I guess. But that's a preview to that little book. I really came down here and had a pivot in ways, and that mental health really would have taken a severe hit if I didn't have my platforms where I had that face-to-face interaction with people. Right. And it really goes a long way. I mean, you're locked in the house. I turn on my Zoom and I'm doing a podcast and not feeling as stressed, because COVID was horrible. A lot of deaths with people we know, a lot of sicknesses. Some friends were really, really sick, family members sick, and it's horrible. But I just pray for everybody in 2021 that they have great health and their businesses all recover and rebound.
And that just stresses the importance of, staying connected. And thankfully, we have these platforms where we can be connected with our loved ones if we're not in the same, area that they're in. And so you mentioned something about, you do as much as you can do based upon your limitations as far as your body, what limitations do you encounter, and you've worked around them, tremendously, but just what are some of those limitations?
Well, I touched on the mental
right
challenges I face, but as far as physically, when I got hit by the car, I got hit from behind, and it hit my right leg, and I had my bone pop out of my leg and broken tib fib, so they had to line it back up, put a rod in the middle, goes around the rod. So extreme discomfort, especially in the beginning, would change the weather, raining. I would be in the classroom. I vividly remember being back at school in my finance classes, knowing it's raining, which is every day in Florida in the summer, but my leg would tighten up. My teachers knew what's up, the deal. I had to take a walk. I wasn't trying to not sit in class. I had to stretch out my leg. It was real. I was up in New York when this all happened, rehabbing with my family, and I took a nap one day and I fell asleep with my sneakers on the couch. And my ankle was so stiff because of the snow on the ground outside, I couldn't even get my shoe off.
Wow.
And then now I push myself to the max limit, everything I do. But as far as my health, this summer my knee started acting up, and I had to really stop working at the restaurant. And it was it stinks because I'm 29 years old and I would love to do co-ed softball with my friends or activities, but just something that may not be in the cards. But you can't have everything in this world. You can't, you can't. Well, you gotta.
I really love how you have kind of adapted, and that's a favorite term of mine: adapt and overcome. Like no matter what has come your way, you've adapted, you've overcome, and you're still giving back, and you're still giving value to your community. And so, if I were to make this statement to you, what would you make of that? Live through your imaginations, not your limitations. What could you share with our listening audience that may be living, through their limitations rather than their imagination?
Well, limitations come in many forms, unfortunately, and it's very imperative that you steer clear of them as many as you can. Mm-hmm. One limitation is your own mind, right? Your mind is your strongest thing. Your biggest asset is time in your mind, and it's just like you telling yourself you're not good enough, that imposter syndrome where, okay, I don't have 500 followers on Instagram yet. Oh, I don't have 1,000 followers. I don't have, this, that, the other thing. So what? You have to start somewhere or you're never going to get to that point, right? So you better get there and reach out to people. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Find people, connect with people, grow and learn from their stories. I'm not just plugging my podcast because it's mine, but you hear stories from people where they make you feel like it's okay. Obviously, Michelle touched on it earlier where you supported people. If you don't have supportive people in your corner, it's okay to be friendly with people and friends with people, but if you're going to exhaust time and energy outside your business on being friends with people, make sure you're equally supportive, as we touched on before. You see your friend going through a rough time, reach out to them. And as Tony Alexander, I'll give a shout out to, who's in my book, it's a check up from the neck up. Even people that smile all the time might be people who really don't smile all too often outside of you see. So it's important just do the things to clear it. You don't need to face limitations unless you want to.
Mm-hmm. A mentor and a friend of mine said this statement. He said, "What you focus on expands." And so, you just have to change what you focus on. If you're focusing on greatness, then you will achieve greatness and you will attract greatness. But if you focus on, your failures and your limitations, and that's what you're going to attract, and that's what it's just going to detract from you and what you want to do and what you're called to do. And so I just really I appreciate you reaching out to me, last year sometime, because look at where it's blossomed into. And so
you can't be afraid because people like talking to people. We're human. We like that ability to connect with others, and we're meant to share our stories. And it's just, I don't know. You got to get out there, and if it's not in your comfort zone, this is the way I'll put it to you. The only people who are going to criticize you for going on camera and sharing your story are people who probably never got in front of a camera on their own. And that's how I looked at it when I was speaking at first, where, there's always the naysayers or whatever, and I'm speaking and you're in your own head at some point if you hear too much doubt. But the only people who are really going to criticize you on a stage with a microphone are probably people who wouldn't hop on that stage and do that public speaking. So get out of your own head, stay focused, and know you can achieve greatness. Just you have to think outside the box. You might need a little help. hop on LinkedIn, reach out to Michelle.
Well, I'll reach out to Mr. Vincent as well. So who's one of your greatest mentors?
I have 3 mentors. Well, I have plenty of mentors. I don't want to leave anybody out of the conversation, but right now in my life, the 3 mentors over the last few years, Rod Buchan, Lee Bell, Tony Alexander. Lee Bell, I did a 1 million cups event, which many of you may know. It's a nationwide event where you pitch your ideas to this organization, 1 million cups. You're a new entrepreneur. You want to share your story in the community. And Lee Bell was, he was in the audience attending that day, and I met him. And in the beginning, especially, we met so much. He helped me get my first book off the ground and helped me continue to network and meet great people like Debbie Lundberg, Akash Patel, all these people in Tampa. But Rod Buchan was my other mentor at that point in my life in graduate school at the University of Tampa. They give you this incredible opportunity to have a mentor. There's businesses and figures who work with the school very closely and tightly, and they offer their services to help young kids get up out of their own head and organize their thoughts. And he became my career coach, mentor. And Tony Alexander of late, who came up a few times, my cousin Kim in Louisiana, she messaged me, saw what I was doing on social media, said, "Hey, I love what you're doing. You got to meet this guy, Tony." And ever since, Tony and I have collaborated a bunch of times. And this morning was one of his podcasts with a friend Marco Novo in Portugal. He introduced me to, so he brings all his mentees on these shows, and we interact and always help each other grow. And it's been an incredible experience working with all 3 of those guys.
So for someone that is looking to, they want to share their story, they feel like they've, encountered some adversities and they're now in a place where they want to give back and share. What kind of advice or guidance could you give them in how they can go about doing that without, knowing anyone or how to get started? What would you say to them?
Well, I'll open it up right here, right now. You reach out to me. I had to start from there. I'm sure Michelle would love to talk to you as well. Any questions as you want. I do all free discovery calls. Anytime anybody wants to speak with me, there's no charge for that call. You go to my website, you book a discovery call on my calendar, or you go to my social media on Instagram, my calendar's in that link. You book a call, and the reason, right, I heard you on Michelle's show. I'd love to talk about something. I'd love to talk about maybe on your mental health podcast. If this is adversity, you want to help people with your story, you want some advice on how to get off the ground. I mean, Tampa General Hospital was the organization that saved my life. I credit with them. I do a lot with them. And in the beginning, especially, and before COVID, I wanted to get involved speaking, right? I wanted to help other traumatic brain injury patients. All you have to do is show initiative and people are going to help you. I reached out to them and I got into the brain injury support groups and all of these things helping brain injury patients. And now I'm still in contact with TBI survivors from TGH I met just because I reached out. If you want to make a difference in this world, there will be somebody who wants to make a difference with you, but they may not come to you. You may have to go out and get that collaboration. You have to have the confidence, and if it's something you want to make a difference, you want to share your story, someone will listen and someone will thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And so, what I'd like you to share with those that are tuning in and listening in is, what is one takeaway and one call to action that you would charge those that are encountering adversities or have a challenge and maybe they're like in that valley and don't know how to get out? Give them a takeaway that they can take and resonate with them, and give them a charge or a challenge, a call to action that there's a timeline that they need to accomplish.
Yeah, if you're feeling that way and you need a start, I recommend this, and Michelle will love this as well. We touched on it briefly. The most minor form of exercise, and it will lead into my second part of this. You don't have to squat weights and lift all these dumbbells to feel good mentally. Just go for a walk. If it's too cold right now in the state or country you're living in, walk around your house, set a 15-minute timer. Just go walk around. The endorphins that it released is change your whole day, your whole life. And then to bridge off that, set small, attainable goals, small steps to take in the right direction. I had several things in the new year I wanted to get back on my feet. After Thanksgiving and Christmas, you're doing a lot of eating. I did a lot of traveling with my family. Had to get back in the right routine. I was falling behind in my reading. I wanted to get back into the gym full time. I wanted to make sure I was back eating right. All these 3 goals the first week, I said, okay, I'm not going to be able to knock all 3 of these out the first week. I can do a little bit of it each week. So the first week I said, okay, let me make sure I get to the gym the 6 days a week. And then the next it was, okay, let me do some meal prep this week and continue the gym. See, and then now I'm back getting my leisure reading in, and I'm also doing my Spanish lessons in the morning. So it's more structured mornings, and it's because I didn't overload myself, get flustered, get my anxiety through the roof if I have too much on my plate. With no plan, it's not going to end well. So don't overwhelm yourself even further. Just go ahead, write down the 3 goals, plan out your day before bed, do these little things, just plan ahead. And when you feel like you know what's going on, there's not much to stress about.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, Vincent, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing, with our listening audience. First of all, your story, it's just absolutely amazing. Every time I hear it, I glean something else from it, and I learn a little bit more about not just you, but your resiliency, your fortitude, and your ability just to kind of continue to adapt and overcome. And I really resonate with that because that's my mentality, my mindset as well. And so I just wanted to thank you again. And for our listening audience, I know you see streaming along the bottom of the screen Vincent's website, but for the listening audience, how can they find you online? IG, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all of those. Please share with them how they can find you and get in contact with you.
Well, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you again, Michelle, for having me on the show. I had a great time with you as always, and I think the listeners are going to get a lot of value, or at least I hope so, out of this episode, out of my experiences, out of my stories. Right here, Vincent A. Lanci. I'm at all social media, YouTube with this handle, and from there, you'll be able to check out my podcasts, the coaching, all of that's on my website under services. Again, I do a free discovery call. You don't have to be interested in buying my service necessarily, but I do like connecting with people on LinkedIn. People have been reaching out lately that have been UT alumni, saying they're UT grads, and I immediately just say, thank you for connecting with me. Here's my calendar link. Hop on it. Let's hop on a 15-minute call, and let's see how we can help each other grow. I'm huge into that, and I'm trying to hold myself, again, accountable with that in 2021, where if I meet a new connection, let's hop on a call, break down these communication barriers, and feel comfortable, friendly, because let's find out how we can help each other. You're opening up to a whole new network of people that don't know who you are, what you're standing for, what you're doing. And that might be the missing connection. You need to take your business, your personal life, your spiritual life to the next level. You never know who's listening on the other side of that camera, on that microphone. And I look forward to connecting with anyone who wants to collaborate. I'm big into collaborations, as you can find out. And I credit and thank everybody who has worked with me in 2020, because it was a successful year through all the darkness, and I'm really excited for 2021.
Awesome. Well, I do want to say that I myself am most grateful and thankful that I've had the opportunity to meet you, get to know you, and even, get to know you better. And looking forward to us doing some things in business together. I wanted to just kind of do a quick recap over some of the things that you shared. And I wrote notes because I just didn't want to, miss anything. The first thing that you said that really resonated with me, and I hope that my listening audience, you take this as a takeaway. Tell me I can't and I will. How many of us have that attitude? And it doesn't matter what happens or what it is. It's just this one thing that causes us to have that attitude. And we just, in our mind and in our spirit, we're like, okay, we're going to prove them wrong because I know I can do this no matter what. The other thing that you stated was don't commit to something if you know that you can't follow through on it. You lose friends that way. There's loss of respect. There's a disconnect. And during this time more than ever, we need to be connected and we need to stay connected. Even though we're human and we have our faults, connection is the key. One of the other things that you touched on, you said there's not really a secret to success. The thing is, the two things that you touched on were persistence and consistency. And so if you're struggling with that, reach out to Vincent, reach out to myself. We can help you with that. And the thing that inspired me the most, and I hope this inspires you, just take this as a takeaway. Vincent was left for dead. He went from being a vibrant, on fire, on the go student, entrepreneur in the making, all of that, to being reduced to having the capability of a 5-year-old. And though his journey was long and it was arduous, it took him 6 years to get back to a semblance of what he was able to do. And even during that time, he was still building and growing. And so it's just a phenomenal example of no matter what happens, no matter what you encounter, you can work through it, you can push through it, you can rise above it. So if you take nothing else away, be inspired by the example that you see sitting here before you today. And so thank you guys so much for tuning in to Michelle Speaks. If you hide it, you can't heal it. Vincent has laid himself bare today. Reach out and use him as a resource. Reach out to him to be encouraged, to be inspired, and to continue to move forward beyond your adversity. So I look forward to you guys tuning in next time. And we're going to end now. So take care, be well, and God bless.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.